Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the learned edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the weird dose of X. The X-Men comic show. It's the weird dose of X, guaranteed. It's the weird dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the weird dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the weird dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
Welcome all you weirdos, freedom fighters of Ella Run 7, and everyone who enjoys gambling on the digestive process of a cow. It is time to receive your 153rd Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science podcast family. I am your cabbage-fortified host, Jason, broadcasting as always from the Wrong Turn studio perched high atop stately Weird Science Tower. And joining me from the lovely Scottish Isle of Mersey, where absolutely nothing suspicious is going on, it's my pal Ruben. Hey Ruben, how the heck are you today?
Hey, I'm doing okay. I am already exhausted and done with summer. We've got the kids home, no school, and I was just like, this is trash.
Those brutal summers of the Pacific Northwest are beating you down, huh?
No, but my brutal daughters are, so.
Oh yeah, they'll do that to you. So yeah, personally, I am very packed to the gills with cabbage at the moment because this weekend was our church's annual Polish festival, where we serve cabbage stuffed into pierogi and also meat stuffed into cabbage. We do not yet serve cabbage stuffed inside cabbage, but I think maybe next year we'll be able to do that. Lots of cabbage. I don't really eat cabbage the rest of the year, but one weekend I'm full of cabbage. You a big cabbage fan there, Ruben?
Is it purple or green?
Green.
Yeah, it's all right. Not so bad.
Not so bad. Okay, we'll
makes
give
you
that.
Pretty gassy. That's my thing against cabbage, but it tastes good. It's good going in one direction, maybe not the other direction.
Well, speaking of the other direction, the other big event at the festival, and my wife has now taken control. She seized control of the cow chip bingo event. Now, the couch. I've talked about this in the Slack. You know all about cow chip bingo, right, Ruben?
I'm horrified that you guys do this, but you do.
Very classy, incredibly classy. The idea is you buy a ticket, you pull out a ping pong ball that has a number on it. The number corresponds to a square that's been marked out on the grass inside this pen off on the side. And towards the end of the festival, we bring in a cow. Wherever the cow chooses to mark, that's who wins the. I think it was like $1,500 this year. So pretty big money gambling on the cow poop.
Wow, that is good money.
This is how we do things in New England. We keep it very classy. So that's all I got going on. It's been Father's Day this weekend. You have an exciting Father's Day. Sounds like your daughter's really wearing you out.
Yeah. It was fine. Let's see, what do we do? We went to my favorite Caribbean restaurant, and I ate way too much, so that was good.
Nice.
And I got some fun Father's Day gifts. So your standard like art that you hang up and love fondly, but we never showed anybody from the kids. And then my wife bought me a pickleball serving machine. So I'm going to be that guy that has the machine shooting pickleballs at me instead of tennis balls. And in theory, this will make me a better pickleball player. But
wow, I didn't know you were so dedicated to the sport.
Well, I'm pretty terrible. I think this is my wife's sending like a very subtle message about like you need to get better.
Oh, that's a nice way to do it, at least. Yeah, we went out for dinner as well. Went to a Vietnamese restaurant, so we got the pho. Really enjoy that. And after that, we went to a place where we learned how to make ice cream using liquid nitrogen. So that was awesome. We got to mix the custard base and add the ingredients, and
what's your flavor of choice? What'd you go with?
Of the ingredients they had, I went with vanilla, blueberries, and little bits of crushed up ice cream cone, just for texture.
Nice. Sounds good.
Good stuff.
I like the texture element. That's a good add.
Yeah, it really helped. And it's connected. It's in Providence. It's connected to a place that also does glass blowing. It's an odd combination, ice cream and glass blowing. They said they had a birthday party earlier that day where they had a dozen 12-year-old boys, and they would do glass blowing, and then they make nitrogen ice cream, which sounds like a pretty awesome birthday party for a 12-year-old boy, so check that out. But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to talk about some comic books. And today we're going to talk about, first, we have an Infinity comic that's starting off. That'll be good. And the real comic books we're going to talk about are Exceptional X-Men number 10, Giant Size Phoenix number 1, and what I'm calling Regular Size Phoenix number 12. So that is what we're going to get to next. We ready to zoom off into those, Ruben?
Yep, let's go.
Here we go. First off, yes, we do have the start of another arc of Astonishing X-Men. It is Astonishing X-Men Infinity Comic number 25, The Cuckoo Song, Part 1. And once again, I don't know what the title means. There are no actual cuckoos in it, either the bird or the creepy sisters, but maybe they'll show up. We return to the creative team of Alex Pactadell writing, art by Philip Sevi, colors by Michael Bartolo, and letters by Clayton Cowles. Now, in this opening chapter, we set up a new situation, introduce a new character. The new situation is the island of Mersey. I'm pronouncing it Mersey, M-U-R-S-A-Y. We're told it's in the Orkneys, which are real islands off the northern coast of Scotland. I think that's where Moira McTaggart's lab usually is that area. And the new character is a purple girl named Ava. I think she's a brand new character. I couldn't find anything on her. Ruben, do you think she's brand new as far as you know?
She looked new to me, but maybe this was in New Mutants or something that we weren't reading. But I've never seen this character.
Yeah. A quick Google, a quick look through the wiki. I couldn't find anything right away, but once again, this book just came out, so I haven't done a huge deep dive on her. Now, Ava, whether she's new or old, she has the ability to grow extra body parts. It looks like she grows them like when the need arises. For instance, when she has to climb a cliff, she grows a third arm. When she needs to be aware of what's behind her as well as what's in front of her, she grows a second head, that kind of thing. The story opens with a bit of dramatic irony as we see Ava being chased by a hashtag shadowy figure, while narration boxes read to us a very calm, happy letter that she had previously written to Paige Guthrie about how great things are here. So yeah, this letter is all about how wonderful this Mercy Island place can be. She says it's no Krakoa, nothing else could be, but she says it is a place where the locals welcome and support mutants, and that the humans here appreciate what mutants have done for them. And the letter invites her pal Paige to come visit. But meanwhile, we watch Ava being chased through the dark landscape and off a ledge. And she falls off the ledge like she's Wile E. Coyote. We don't see much of the hashtag shadowy figure chasing her, other than it's a little bit bigger than a person, kind of bulky. It has claws, it has glowing red eyes. At the end of this scene, we don't know if Ava is alive or dead, although at the end of the chapter, we'll learn she's still alive. Next scene, we cut to Paige and Skin arriving at the island for a visit. They tell us that Banshee's off working on that whole flat scanner situation, so he's presently unavailable. They're given a warm yet creepy welcome by the island's human inhabitants, led by a guy named Dr. Ivor Barboos. Paige and Skin are going to stay at Dr. Barboos's house for the night. Doctor says that Ava, she's not available right now. She'll be back tomorrow. They also meet his elderly mother, Madeline, who's embroidering something in Krakoan. Now, Ruben, did you stop to translate this Krakoan embroidery? Or any guesses what it might say?
I did not at all. Just tell me what it says.
It's pretty obvious. It just says, welcome home, which makes Paige kind of creeped out. Why is it home? Why is this lady embroidering in Krakoan? Paige and Skin are not dumb. They clearly know something highly suspicious is going on.
Yes. I did appreciate that when they're in the room, they're like, oh, this is nice. And then they're like, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, we don't have to pretend that they're these, naive characters who have never seen a horror movie. So we return in a final scene to that cliff Ava fell off of, and we got two bearded hunter dudes who seem to be tracking her. Neither of them look like the shadowy figure is chasing her, so I don't know quite how they're connected. They think that Ava is probably dead from the fall, but they realize that, hey, she's a mutant. Mutants have weird things going on. Could still be alive. And one of them says, boy, I hope she's dead for her sake, which was an odd thing to say because I thought that they were like mutant hunters, but now maybe they're sympathetic to mutants. I think it's still up in the air who these guys are and how it's connected. Do you have any theories who these fellas might be?
I think they're part of the team that was hunting her to begin with. That
So you think
creature.
they're bad dudes?
Yeah, I think they're bad dudes.
So yeah, let's see. Where am I? Oh, right. Edit this out. I don't even have that button. Oh, and I just erased that one. Okay. So in the final panel, we see Ava now back down to one head and three arms. Wait, one head and two arms. I'm messing this all up, and my phone is ringing. Jim, you're gonna have to edit this. I'm getting a call from Spam Risk. Go away, Spam Risk. Let me hit the ding sound 3 more times and come back in. In the final panel, we see Ava, who's now back down to the standard one head and two arms. She's been caught up on a rock in the river, her eyes open, and we see her take a breath, so she's not dead quite yet. This story could be all right. I'm glad to see that Paige and Skin kind of know something's up. I'm hoping it's nothing too cliche, right? The old most dangerous game seems to be in play, or maybe they're bringing in mutants to sacrifice to some local god or monster. Hoping it's more of a twist than that, but just an opening chapter. What did you think of this opening chapter?
It felt really basic to me. I didn't think it was terrible, but if you're going to tell a basic story, you need to have, I guess, the character elements really strong to make it worth your time. And I don't know. I don't really like Skin and Paige that much.
Yeah, once again, opening chapters, I always, my brain is always going to what else it could be. And obviously there's plenty of options, but so far, just kind of something I feel I've read a couple dozen times already. So it needs a good twist. It needs something different to happen in chapter 2 to make me say, oh, there's actually something different going on. But so far, just one chapter, could go anywhere. Let's move on to our first real book of the show, which is Exceptional X-Men number 10, written by Eve L. Ewing, with art by Carmen Carnero and Federica Mancini. Now, Mancini maybe, she's fairly new to Marvel. She did a few chapters of things like the Avengers United Infinity comic, a couple issues of Spider-Gwen, and I'm pretty sure that she draws the Of the Mind sequences in this comic, just because those parts look different from what we've gotten used to with Carmen Carnero art. Colors throughout are by Nolan Woodard, and the letters are by Travis Lanham. At the end of the last issue, Emma and Sinister were having a psychic standoff. Emma borrowed some of Alex's empathic abilities, and somehow that meant she won the standoff. But Emma then collapsed in a heap of boots, gloves, and cleavage. Much of this issue was spent with Emma and Sinister inhabiting a mental landscape. And while they're doing this, the rest of the Exceptionals are given an action scene so that they have something to do. So let's start in the Of the Mind world. Very clearly Sinister's mental landscape, Emma just stuck in it. And the reason that she's stuck here is, I don't think, very well established. Did you really have a solid feel for why any of this is happening, Ruben?
Yeah, it seems to be that they're pushing that Sinister is a very powerful psychic, but I guess he's holding on to her? I don't know. Maybe the answer to your question is no. It's not very clear what's going on.
It wasn't clear to me because when we see Sinister later, it's not like he even knows what's going on, right? He doesn't seem to be actively doing anything. He seems to be kind of just stuck here as well. So we're here in Sinister's mind. It's very Alice in Wonderland. The art here looks terrific. I mean, on top of anything else, the way, especially this opening splash page with Emma in a Sinister-esque outfit, I think that looks great. Maybe that's saying a little bit too much about my own personal taste for me to put out on a podcast, but yeah, I think that's a good panel. Throughout this sequence, Emma talks to herself. She's kind of reflecting back on her own history, which was a trope we see a lot. Seems odd that she'd do it at this moment. I would think she'd be kind of focused on the predicament she's in and not just reminiscing about, the old days. She runs into Sinister himself here, and it's Sinister as a young teen, maybe even preteen. And again, the why of this, very unclear to me. Because there never was a teenage Mr. Sinister, because Nathaniel Essex was a grown man before he became Mr. Sinister. This young Master Sinister doesn't recognize Emma, doesn't seem to know he's stuck in a dream world, doesn't seem to know anything about anything. And it's at this point that Alex, a.k.a. Axo, enters the landscape. He had the rest of the Exceptionals hook him back up to Sinister's empath device, which for some reason lets him get into this mental landscape. A lot of back and forth between Emma and Alex about who gets to make a heroic sacrifice to save whom. And this feels like a trope we've seen in a lot of modern comics. No, I'm here to save you. No, I'm here to save you. You don't get to save me. I get to... Yeah, kind of tired of it. They go through a messy version of the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, and Alex eventually saves the day. He picks up a stuffed elephant, asks young Master Sinister what the elephant's name is. The elephant is Eleanor, and Sinister is very emotionally attached to Eleanor the elephant. I did a lot of searching on this one because I figured, it must be Eleanor was an important person in Nathaniel Essex's life. Does not seem to be the case. Cannot find any hide or hair of an Eleanor connected to Nathaniel Essex or Mr. Sinister. His wife was Rebecca, his mother was Mary, his kids were Adam and Morgan, no Eleanors. But this Sinister loves Eleanor the elephant so much that giving it back to him de-ages him in this mental landscape to like 2 or 3. Alex then commands him to take a nap, and toddler Sinister falls asleep. Man, I wish real toddlers worked that way. Emma's now able to push Alex out of the mental landscape, and she joins him in the real world soon after. And meanwhile, the Exceptionals in the real world have been fighting wolves, because Sinister's lab security system is just an endless series of cloned wolves. Though Kitty says that they look like little saber-tooths. Did they look like saber-tooths to you? I thought they were just kind of standard issue wolves. Ruben, you are muted. Ruben, are you there?
Yes, foolishly on mute again. There's a scene where Iceman is looking at the wolves coming out.
Okay.
And if I zoom in on the wolf face, I can kind of get a saber-tooth vibe from it. But if you just showed me that without saying the word saber-tooth, I definitely would not have been like, clearly a saber-tooth.
A couple of kind of big teeth. Not like the full-on, giant, saber-tooth tiger teeth, but it's
I'm not going saber-tooth tiger. I'm going saber-tooth, the X-Men villain.
Right.
I think the hair is like the ears kind of look like his hair a bit.
I guess it's Mr. Sinister. He clones things. He mixes genes. It's fine that there's saber-tooth involved, but it doesn't really add anything. They just need somebody to fight because they have to do something this issue too. It's an okay fight scene, but nothing too exciting. Alex, who's now starting to become maybe a little bit overpowered, he orders the saber-tooth wolves to go lie down, and they do. Whenever he gets a red typeface in his word balloons, that seems to be him using his empathic powers to command people, which apparently is irresistible.
Yeah, I kind of don't like that. I thought it was more interesting before when, he influenced people but didn't have the ability to like force them to do things.
Yeah, that's another one of these powers that's going to have some kind of limitation put on it because it can get very OP.
Yeah, well, this is pretty OP, right? It just tells everyone all the time, go to sleep. Conflict over.
These are supposed to be they use like video game levels, goes from level 1 to like level 8. And these are like level 8 saber-tooth wolves, and they can just, be told to go away. Now Sinister himself wakes up. We have to have a climactic battle. And now the kids get to show off how well they've learned to work together. Once again, really unclear why Sinister made the other Exceptionals come here, because he lured them in with the fake Iceman. The kids win the fight, and maybe this actually kind of explains why they win so easily, because this Sinister falls apart into the same goo that the Alex clone fell apart into. So is this the real Sinister? Is there any real Sinister? What does the real Sinister even mean anymore? But maybe this is just one of the crappy new version of the clones, and it wasn't a real top-tier Mr. Sinister anyway. What did you think of this Sinister switcheroo?
It helps me understand why the Sinister is not that interesting.
Yeah.
But
a knockoff.
Yeah. I actually kind of made me laugh because I was like, it means this like crappy clone like kicked the crap out of like the Exceptional X-Men. They're in trouble when the real one shows up.
I'm actually kind of glad that it's not the real one, because they did kind of nerf Mr. Sinister for this story. And okay, it wasn't the real version. I am super curious what the real Mr. Sinister is doing, but I'm sure that'll be saved for another book. At the end, it seems that maybe Alex is going to adopt one of the saber-tooth wolves, or at least he's kind of playing with one like he's a pet. That's kind of weird. And also on the pet side of things, Kitty finds Lockheed locked away inside one of Sinister's prison cell tubes. So maybe Lockheed's coming into the book. That could be fun.
Maybe not. What does Lockheed add? I think that character is so dang boring. It's like, just random dragon that she likes.
It could be maybe reminding Kitty of her old life a little bit, bring her more into that kind of thing. We'll see. I'm happy to see Lockheed. I didn't read the Lockheed Infinity comic, which was like a silent gag comic, but I'm okay seeing Lockheed back. Mostly when I think of Lockheed, I remember Lockheed being when they killed Kitty early on in Krakoa. right? Because there's the whole bit where Kitty, they couldn't resurrect until they figured something out. I remember Lockheed getting tangled up in vines and dragged into the ocean before he escaped and ended up recovering in Madripoor, I think. That's Lockheed's story, I think. But that's where we leave this story. An issue that really looked good, especially in the Of the Mind sequence, but I don't think the story had a lot of logic to it. Several moments where we were supposed to be cheering our characters, getting to shine, getting to win, but those moments felt pretty much unearned to me. So with an extra bonus for art, I'm still giving this issue a 6 out of 10. Buy it to look at the pretty pictures, but so far, not much of a story going on here. How about you, Ruben? Where are you on this book?
I thought it was a snooze fest. It was just a really bad Of the Mind issue with pretty much nothing happening. I guess I was kind of amused by some of the banter about the saber-tooth tigers, right? Like, or whatever the hell they were, wolves. When, they started out at the low level and then it like jumps 5 levels. That did kind of make me chuckle. But besides that one joke, I was just like, what was the point of this? So you gave it a 6. I think I would go 5.8. Just to be a little more negative.
Now, next issue, maybe this will make you more excited, Ruben. Next issue, they are bringing in Eve Ewing's previous character, Ironheart, who also lives in Chicago, so makes sense they would cross over. You looking forward to Ironheart showing up and kicking this thing into the next gear?
Sure. Did she create Ironheart?
I think so.
Okay, interesting.
At least she was the main writer on it. I'm pretty sure it was her created character.
Yeah.
But
Ironheart's all right. I don't know. Not super excited. What's the last thing Ironheart did? Was like Ironheart was helping with the Iron Man invasion of Earth, right? Wasn't that the thing?
Right, the whole Mysterium suit deal. I remember that. That's the only thing I really know about her. I don't think I read a lot of her solo book. But that's next month's problem. The next problem for us today is giant-sized Dark Phoenix Saga number 1 of 1. The main story is called Marvel Girl, written by Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly, with art by Rod Reese, and the backup is called Song for the Lonely, written by Steve Fox with art by Lucas Wernick. Now, Ruben, the original Dark Phoenix Saga, for all that it's been referenced and revisited over the decades, was just 9 issues of the Uncanny X-Men, issues 129 through 137, no Alpha, no Omega, no tie-ins, no extra covers as far as I know, just the standard monthly issue of the magazine, cover dates January through September of 1980. And a lot happened in these issues. Besides, Dark Phoenix stuff aside, the same stretch of issues also features the first appearances of Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, Sebastian Shaw, Dazzler, Sage, and even the first appearance of B'ni and Cecile, those robots we saw last week in Imperial. Even Jimmy Carter himself shows up for a panel. So a lot of stuff going on in these issues.
That's fascinating. I didn't know Sage was that old.
Yes, this is when she was working in the Hellfire Club. So I posted a single panel to the Slack last night and said, can anybody guess what major character appears here for the first time? And she's just off in a corner, kind of dressed up in a French maid outfit. I think she's like bringing a glass of wine or something to Sebastian Shaw. She does nothing in the issue, but it is technically Sage's first appearance. This is back when she was undercover as Tessa.
Yeah, interesting.
So, Ruben, have you read the Dark Phoenix saga itself before?
No, I was asking you, for if I had it, what issues it was in, and I looked, and I do not, unfortunately. And then he told me it was on Unlimited, so at some point, probably this week, I'll pull it up and read it, but just have never done it.
It's a good thing to read. Here's the basic recap of Dark Phoenix for everybody. I know we've all seen it referenced 1,000 times. It's been in the movies twice already, but here's what happened in the actual comics. So Phoenix, Jean Grey, she's been growing more and more powerful. Professor Xavier had installed kind of what they call circuit breakers in her mind just to kind of prevent her from accessing all the power, because the idea is a human mind wouldn't deal with that much power that she has. But those circuit breakers have begun to fall. Even her teammates start to become concerned. At the same time, Jason Wingard, Mastermind, he's been messing with Jean Grey. Dangerous thing to do. He periodically convinces her that the two of them are married and living in revolutionary war times. So she sees like all the main characters, but she writes them into her mental story of it being the 1700s. She even sees Storm as a slave, which we'd call that problematic these days. Skips over pretty quickly in these issues. Jean even joins the Hellfire Club under Wingard's influence. and she becomes the very first Black Queen of the Hellfire Club. Jean breaks loose of Mastermind's influence, but the experience tips her over the edge, bringing her dark, power-hungry impulses to the surface, and now she becomes the Dark Phoenix. So this is when she flies into space, eats a star, causes the death of 5 billion Dabari asparagus people, all that stuff. She also murders the crew of a Shi'ar ship that comes to investigate, and then she flies back to Earth, fights the X-Men. This is when we hit Uncanny number 136, and this is the issue where Kamala Khan is going to show up. In the original story, meaning the inferior version without Kamala Khan, Professor X is able to subdue Jean, but only because he senses this. The human part of Jean intentionally holds back Dark Phoenix to allow Professor X to win. And then in Uncanny 137, a back-to-normal Jean is arrested by the Shi'ar, brought into space, and there's this kind of honor duel on the moon for Jean's life between the X-Men and the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. Jean starts to go all Dark Phoenix again on the moon, and this time, the human side of Jean uses a powerful Kree weapon on the moon to off herself before the darkness takes over fully, before she winds up murdering even more billions of asparagus people. So that's the basic original Dark Phoenix. In this issue, giant-sized Dark Kamala, Ms. Marvel, and Legion, that kind of empty, hollow version of Legion, they appear right during that battle between Dark Phoenix and the X-Men, issue 136. And the twist here is that Legion talks to Phoenix directly and offers, hey, maybe I'd be a better host for you than Jean Grey. I'm even more powerful. I can give you access to things she can't. Phoenix Force thinks that's a pretty good idea. So the Phoenix Force leaves Jean, goes into the Legion instead, and Legion flies off into space to start eating suns and whatnot. So what did you think of this twist that Phoenix goes into this version of Legion?
I think it's an okay twist, but we're at a point where I really don't know what Legion and Phoenix together add. Like, I already felt like Legion was pretty much could do whatever he wanted, and Phoenix was I could do whatever I want, so I don't really see how this improves things.
Well, we learn what Phoenix wants, because he wants to get access to the White Hot Room, because he has, like, business to attend to with the David Haller Legion who's in the White Hot Room. Like, they've been separated. I don't know if he wants to re-merge with him, if he wants to kill that version of David. Not clear to me, but he wants to get at David Haller. The White Hot Room, although he can kind of get to the edge of it, having the Phoenix power, White Hot Room won't let him in. And for some reason, the White Hot Room, or this, like, manifestation of the White Hot Room, tells Legion the only way you can get in is if you kill Kamala Khan. Do you understand what the connection of Kamala has to do with any of this?
No. It seemed something about, like, you're stuck in temporal time as long as she's alive, but why? I don't know.
Something
I
to do
don't
with her being dragged into his time travel, which we still don't know why she was swept up in his time traveling.
Yeah.
I need a reveal to say, aha, this is why she was pulled into this in the first place.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get one. I feel like this is the only explanation we're going to get, which is pretty terrible.
Well, so Legion goes off for a while, which is good news for Jean, at least temporarily. We get a scene that, this made me laugh, Ruben, because it's almost exactly your favorite scene from the end of that issue of Magic, right? Because Jean overhears her friends talk about how, boy, we don't really necessarily trust her so much because she's so powerful, she could go dark at any second.
Yes.
It's the same scene. So funny. Again, seems a pretty reasonable concern, right? Jean's gone dark a couple times.
Yeah.
Who's to say it's not going to happen a third time, but she's really offended. Until, well, Kamala Khan has a talk with her, and that always makes everything better again.
Yeah. And we missed a great opportunity. There should have been one more panel with Jean leaning up against the doors crying.
With the shadow, yeah.
Yes.
So the gist of Ms. Marvel's talk here is telling Jean, oh, you weren't really responsible for that. The exact quote is, the Phoenix killed 5 billion people. You, Jean, were just a passenger. Now, I'm not sure about this. Isn't the current understanding in Marvel continuity that Jean is, was, always will be the Phoenix? That she's not just a vessel for this cosmic force?
Yeah. It's some really casual hand-wavy stuff.
Yeah, it seems to go back and forth depending on what the writer wants to emphasize at the time, whether the Phoenix Force is this separate thing or if Jean really truly is the Phoenix. In this case, Jean is totally absolved from any wrongdoing, which really takes a lot of the dramatic depth out of the whole story for me. So now Phoenix Legion, who's been rebuffed by the White Hot Room, he rushes back towards Earth, and his goal here is to kill Kamala Khan, because Kamala Khan is the most important character in the entire universe. This time, we still get a battle on the moon, but instead of the X-Men versus the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, now we have the X-Men and the Shi'ar Imperial Guard working together against Phoenix Legion. So an incredible assortment of amazingly powerful characters. But Ruben, who is the only character powerful enough to defeat the combined might of Phoenix and Legion? Who's the only one who can do this?
Well, yeah, Kamala Khan's mutant powers are apparently pretty damn powerful. She uses her light powers to contain Legion Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because if this is, just trying to bring the MCU version of her into the comics, in the MCU storyline, like we've seen people break through this before.
Yeah, and I don't think that to make a character bigger or more interesting, you have to make them ultra powerful. Like, the most popular character in the history of Marvel Comics is a guy who can jump really good, swing around, and he can't even make his own webs. He has to use his science brain to create webs, right? Spider-Man is not popular because he's ultra powerful. He's just a great character. But it seems they want to shortcut things just by saying Kamala Khan is great because, she has to have more power than anybody else. I think that's just a poor storytelling choice. The big deal this time is that this is the first time Kamala is intentionally using her mutant power, creating this hard light construct that's strong enough to hold back the very fires of creation embodied in the Phoenix, freezes Phoenix Legion in place. Jean Grey then allows the Phoenix Force to enter her again, and from here on it plays out just like the end of the real Dark Phoenix saga. Jean Grey uses that Kree weapon to kill herself and take the Phoenix Force with her, but this time she's happy about it because she got to hang out with Kamala.
Is that why she's happy?
That seems to be what it is. Kamala made her feel better about the whole thing, so she's going off to a better place with a smile.
I was really worried about the X-Men, if this is like a time travel thing, right? They basically all get killed.
We have a lot of dead characters here. So Gladiator and Smasher of the Shi'ar. Yeah. Nightcrawler's dead. Colossus, maybe even Wolverine, maybe Storm. It's not entirely clear.
Yeah.
It's got to be at the end of this whole story, there's going to be some sort of, magic wand resets everything, because clearly they're not going to actually change all of X-Men history with this silly story. Something's going to happen that, bibbity bobbity boo, it's all undone. But probably a Legion thing.
Yeah. I'm telling you still, it's going to, they're going to get to David Haller. He's going to merge with the personalities, and then he's just going to fix everything. That's my prediction.
I think that's a pretty good guess. So Legion's plan to use the Phoenix Force to access the White Hot Room is foiled because the Phoenix Force... Is the Phoenix Force dead? Clearly not. It's got to come back somewhere, but Legion, it's slipped out of his grasp. And what he wants to do now, he's sick of Kamala Khan, her meddling, so he wants to bring her back to her own timeline, which is in the future from the point of view of Dark Phoenix, but he overshoots, and now the two of them end up in the Age of Apocalypse timeline, which is going to be the setting of the next giant-size Ms. Marvel issue. So yeah, kind of a dumb story. I thought it was better than the last one, the Kamala visiting original giant size. A little less sucking up and ass-kissing of how great Kamala is. Not none, but less. Art here, really great. Rod Reese is one of the best in the business. I love that splash page of all the heroes on the moon waiting for the fight to start. Looks amazing. I do think Lansing and Kelly really did do the research, read up on Dark Phoenix. It does fit in with those issues in the way you'd want it to fit together. Before we score it, we do have a backup to look at a little bit, and it's called Song for the Lonely, written by Steve Fox and art by Lucas Werneck of the current Storm book. Once again, really terrific art. If you want pretty people in your comic book, Lucas Werneck can do that better than anybody else. But practically no story at all.
Yeah, this is stupid.
So it's a current day Jean Grey story, so current day that she's even wearing that sparkly costume that made Nova all hot and bothered. and Jean finds a pair of alien space dragons, a mated pair, one of whom has just died. The other one draws on Jean's own feelings and memories of Jean's own mate, that'll be Scott Summers, and these feelings and memories ease that space dragon's anguish, except the space dragon does still die of a broken heart, but with a smile on its face. Again, kind of like the end of the other story, where it's still somebody dead, but less sad about being dead than they would be.
Yes.
And then Jean sends like a ghost hug back to Earth for Scott because she loves him so very, very much. The end. So doesn't change anything about Marvel. Like, I thought, like, we saw that first backup. That first backup was cool about Professor X visiting this Italian lady who has, a weird mutant power. This doesn't add any new characters, doesn't add any new concepts. It just kind of, Jean Hart Scott 4E. That's all it is.
Yeah. What I am always interested in these sorts of stories is when they do the montage page where it's got all the different scenes from the past.
Right.
And then I'm always curious, like, what the artists capture is like, these are seminal moments in their relationship. And in particular, I think we have one with Scott and Jean looking at each other with like the Earth behind them. I feel like that was from either Fall of the House of X or Rise of the Powers.
Okay.
Or maybe like slightly before that when they were talking about the X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of taking over again.
It's called Summer House, their place on the moon. That's where they lived for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it just made me interesting. I was just like, I don't remember that scene as being so seminal, but apparently somebody thinks it's worth recreating.
Well, they're both completely naked in that picture, so I'm sure some people enjoy it. Overall, the whole book, not much of a story. Still kind of making Kamala Khan just be the bestest, nicest, strongest character in Marvel history, which, once again, I think fundamentally misunderstands why people liked Kamala Khan as a character in the first place. But annoyed me less than last time. Maybe I'm just getting used to it. And once again, all the art was really top-notch.
I think it was the art. It lulled you into a false sense of positivity. And it did for me, too. As I read it, I was like, these are some cool pictures. Like, you could take a lot of the pages and just blow them up into posters and put them on a wall.
That double page splash of everybody waiting on the moon, that's a really awesome picture. I'm looking through that. We see all the Shi'ar. We see B'ni and Cecile there in the corner, which I think it's really funny that these obscure characters who I never knew of until last week are popping up again. That's pretty cool. Just looks great. So maybe the art is overwhelming a little bit, but I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. It's not awful. It's not great. It's kind of what we expect at this point. How about you, Ruben?
The art's too good for me to go below a 6, but the story is nothing.
The story's too bad for you to go above a 6?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that makes it a 6.
Quality-wise, this is probably still a 5, but the art is just really good. So out of generosity, I will give it a 6.
Sounds good to me. Okay, that was giant-sized Dark Phoenix. Now let's go off to what I'm calling regular-sized Phoenix, number 12, written by Stephanie Phillips, art by Roy Mercado, colors by Hava Tartaglia, letters by Ariana Mayer. Now, essentially, this entire issue, aside from the final 2 pages, are flashback. It's a flashback to Sarah and Jean's childhood, and then a flashback to start to fill in what the deal might be with Sarah right now. And that includes a flashback within a flashback. Did it need to be this complicated? Probably not. First, let's revisit the childhood. We see kid Sarah, maybe young teen, maybe preteen Sarah. She deliberately strikes out to end a softball game. And her kid sister Jean, this is before Jean becomes, awakes as a mutant, kid sister Jean calls her out and asks, "Hey sister, why did you strike out on purpose?" Sarah lies and says, "Oh, it's not on purpose, but I am happy for the other team's pitcher who's going to be moving away." So the implication here is that Sarah wanted to give this kid like a going away present.
And they failed to qualify for the postseason.
Must be. Her team, I don't know what her team thinks of her doing this, but of course, clearly she did it on purpose, right? It's got
to be. Absolutely.
So why is... Maybe if I'm trying to make this more interesting, I would say, it's showing us that Sarah is willing to lie to her sister about something. So maybe she's also not quite telling the truth in the rest of the story? That's all I can take out of this. Maybe I'm reading too much here.
That would make the scene better for me, because I was like, what's the point of this? Also, having been a kid who moved around a lot, military parents, I would be probably, if I were the pitcher, I'd be even sadder because I'd be like
Right.
I'm so good on this team, and now you're making me leave. I wouldn't be like, yay, I got the final win.
So next, we go off to see some sort of a craft or a pod crashing down on the planet Elrond 7, and what we're told is year 11 of the Thales Civil War. This crash reminded me a lot of the Superman origin story, except instead of being found by a kindly farm couple, Sarah is found by a trio of soldiers. And I guess these are human soldiers, Ruben? There's no clue that they're not human, but they're on another planet. Is this a human colony somewhere in the far future? When and where are we? I'm really unsure what's going on here. Did you have any better handle on this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I just assumed they were humanoids, aliens, but of our timeline. But maybe they could be in the future. That'd be interesting. Some time travel element to this.
Right. It's a Phoenix story, so time and space are super mutable. And one of them turns out to be a mutant, which made me think that they were human. I know other species can have mutants too, depending on what writer you're listening to, but I think they're supposed to be humans. So yeah, time frame kind of unclear. Leader of this trio becomes a potentially important character. His name is Captain Keldros Varric. His main visual characteristic is he has some scars on his face. I guess the Thales Civil War not going so well for him. The Sarah they find is fully grown, dressed in white and barefoot. The first thing she says is, "The stars whispered my name, and now the doors are open." Kinda ominous. The soldiers bring her back to their headquarters, check her out. She seems completely normal, totally unhurt by her crash landing. This also makes me think that they're human because she's human, and if she seems normal to them, they don't say, "Oh, she only has 2 nipples, not like us who have 6." Right? I guess that means, she's the same species as them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that makes me think that.
That's good. Yeah.
The soldiers are worried that she's some kind of weapon sent by their opposition, who they call the Loyalists. We really have no clue what the Civil War is about, what side we should be rooting on. It's all just generic Civil War going on. Sarah doesn't remember anything, or at least nothing pertinent to crash landing on another planet. What she does remember is, and here we get our flashback within the flashback, and this flashback fills out the end of her original story on Earth. Originally, Sarah had appeared as a public supporter of mutants in only one issue, in a single panel on a TV screen, which was in X Factor number 12 in late 1986. In this issue, we see that TV appearance from her own point of view. The words she says here match the page from 1986 exactly. "Mutants are human like you and me. It's criminal that they should be harassed in this fashion." In this issue, we also see what happens to her right afterwards. Sarah exits the TV studio through a back door directly into what appears to be Crime Alley. If you look close, I think you can see a few of Martha Wayne's pearls just scattered in the corners. Probably not the same alley, but it's weird to me that she would walk out alone from a TV studio into, deserted alleyway.
Yeah.
And
they probably should have shown protesters out front or something, right? Like, why would you go out this way instead of just the regular? Yeah.
Weird. Sure enough, she's immediately kidnapped from the alley by a group of purifiers. We see her taken back into Cameron Hodge's headquarters. We see that Hodge is working with the Phalanx, and we seem to see Sarah executed and added to the Phalanx collective by this techno-mosquito thing that pokes tendrils into her face. Is that something the Phalanx is known to do? I really haven't read this era so much. I don't know if it's made up here or it's referring to something existing. Any idea?
I don't know about the mosquito thing, but they do assimilate people. That's part of their stick.
The mosquito is a striking visual, so if it is new here, it's the most interesting thing in the book.
Yeah.
So that is the last thing that Sarah remembers before she wakes up on another planet in another time, possibly. Now, the next thing that happens is that her eyes turn all glowy. She looks at Captain Varric, reaches out a hand, and once again she says, "And now the doors are open," which seems to be what she says to activate someone else's mutant power. Yeah. And this is the first time she does that. Varric turns out to make blue blasty things come out of his hands, which is convenient for a soldier, except he seems to have just trashed his own headquarters. Oops.
Yeah. And that soldier's name was Lucas Bishop.
Kind of. Yeah, not that different, really.
Looks very similar. Although I don't know how he's charging up. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm. And everything wraps up super quick here. We get 2 narration boxes that tell us, this is Sarah telling us, that she became a living saint. She calls herself a living saint. Kind of sus. She says that people from all over the galaxy came to her for, quote, help unlocking their potential mutant abilities. Doesn't say what happened in the Civil War, but I guess her side won, because Captain Varric is still hanging around with her. As soon as the story's over, though, and it's convenient it waited for the story to finish, Cable bursts in through the door, blasts Sarah full in the chest with his big-ass laser rifle, and the final line of the book is Cable saying to Jean, I need you to understand your own lie, or else I'll have to make you understand. So, Ruben, what in the world is going on here?
The cliffhanger is the most interesting bit.
As usual, yes.
Yes. And this is Cable, I guess, coming from his own solo series, just freshly arrived after his issue with Avery.
I mean, Cable's timeline is so twisty-turny, it could be anything. Really.
Yeah. Not that that's relevant to anything. I just like to imagine this is the next stop of that character.
Nice.
I'm guessing he knows that she's secretly a Phalanx agent.
Oh, okay.
And I think that Sarah's not going to be a long-term character. I think she's going to be revealed to be infected and helping with the Phalanx agenda of taking over things.
Interesting. My theory is not exactly the same. I'm keying off him saying to Cable saying to Jean, I need you to understand your own lie. And my theory is that Jean has kind of unknowingly, unconsciously brought a fake version of her sister into being, right? She's the Phoenix. She can make things happen. I think it's kind of like what John Stewart's doing over in DC. Are you reading that Green Lantern book where he has a construct version of his dead sister?
Oh, interesting. No. I like your theory, though. It's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's something like that, Phoenix shenanigans mixed with Green Lantern shenanigans. So I think it's going to turn out that Jean herself created this fake version of Auntie Sarah. Well, Cable's Auntie Sarah, Jean's sister Sarah. So yeah, the art here, not great, right? We said pick up the giant size book if you want to because of the great art. There's no pages in this issue that would make you want to grab something and say, hey, check out this cool page. It gets the story done. Kind of basic.
Yeah, fortunately, I read this before I read Giant Size because, and I'm looking at the art, having just looked at the art of the last issue, and I was like, oh, this is so basic compared to, what we had in that.
Yeah, it almost seems more like it's not quite finished. Like there's layouts, all the characters are there, but you almost expect, okay, now I'm going to go back and add in all that detail that brings it to life because it's just really lacking in that. The story is also kind of basic. Maybe the softball story will turn out to have a purpose. For now, it's kind of just page filler. And despite the preview promising us, quote, the secret origin of Sarah Gray, the issue skips over the only part we really care about, right? How did we get from she was taken over by the Phalanx to here we are on another planet? That'll have to wait for, I hope, next issue. Ella runs 7 part of the story, very generic space war. We don't know anything about these people or their enemies, how the war is, what it's about, nothing like that. So with basic art and a basic story, a mystery I would like the solution to. I do think the basic idea of, why is Sarah here? I think that's an okay nub at the center of the story, but the rest of the bits around it, not very exciting. So I think I'm going to stick with the same score I'm giving pretty much everything this week, and I'm going to call this a 6 out of 10. It's still a whole lot better than like the back end of the Adani story here in this Phoenix book, but
yeah, I was going to say Sarah is infinitely better than Adani, so it's slightly better than it's been. I think I'm going to be a little controversial and go up to 6.5.
Oh, we up to 6.5. Okay.
Yeah. This is
the,
close.
The mystery is that interesting to you?
Yeah, I think this is close. This is an interesting story, but it feels like it's half a story almost. Like it's way too stretched. I feel like you could have just told this exact same story in half the pages and then given us a little bit more story. But
that's not how they do things these days, Ruben.
Yeah.
Everything is, you get one idea and you stretch it out to 12 issues. That's the way things are done.
Yeah. It's pretty bad when you go back and read some of those classic stories with Claremont and you're like, oh my God, he told like 5 issues in the span of one.
Those 9 issues of Dark Phoenix I was just telling you about. It's just so much happened, so much cool stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chris Claremont did not stretch things out the way modern writers do, for better and for worse. He had his own tropes that were kind of odd, but he hit you with ideas, which is what I like.
Yeah. If I were having beers with somebody, I'd ask them like, why do they do this? And sometimes I wonder if maybe it's because you just have so many writers on, books that you're not allowed to get so far ahead that you kind of have to keep it slow, right? There's probably like milestones like, okay, in 6 months, we're going to get to this storyline. So you can't go past that.
Yeah,
and then
that
people try to
certainly
figure
feels
out how
like
to do it.
what's going on in the Ultimate Universe. It feels like there's a foot on the brakes because something's going to happen and none of the books can get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Phoenix number 12, which was our last issue to talk about this week. I haven't yet read the Wolverine Deadpool book. That might or might not be good. If you're reading that, let us know what you think of it. But let's talk about next week. Now, next week, Ruben, I'm not going to be here. I'm going off on a little vacation, visiting the in-laws in Pittsburgh. Going to take in a Pittsburgh Pirates game. Going to hang out and have some good old Pittsburgh food. So while I'm away, I'm going to give you the keys to this thing, and you're in charge of what happens next week. That sound like fun to you?
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I got to figure out who could be my guest host. So if you're listening to this and you're interested, I'd even take like 2 extra people. So just send me a message in the Slack chat.
Okay, if you're out there and you've always dreamed of being an X-Men podcaster, now's your chance. And some of the books, Ruben, you might end up talking about next week. We're going to have X-Men number 18, going back to that 3K Quentin Quire, Magneto as a kaiju, all that good stuff. We have Emma Frost, The White Queen number 1, which is that flashback series talking about, Emma Frost back when she was in the Hellfire Club. So to that same time period as we saw her in the original Dark Phoenix book. Also Psylocke number 8 and Wolverine number 10. And maybe we'll find out if, Wolverine's dead mom is really alive, or if Sabretooth is really alive, or what in the world is going on there. So that is next week. And my recommended reading for this week is pretty obvious. If you haven't read the original Dark Phoenix saga, you should read the original Dark Phoenix saga. It's really good. It's just Uncanny X-Men issues 129 through 137. It's been collected a million times in a million different ways. You can find it on Marvel Unlimited. It's not hard to get your hands on it, so definitely check that out. Ruben, anything you want to add before we get the heck out of here?
Nope. Just read more X-Men comics.
You do that.
Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive.
Learned edition. Learned
Going through all the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the learned edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
I like it, though. I listen to it every week. I like it.